Thank you so much. Good morning to all. My name is Jonathan Sembajwe, the ECPAT Youth Representative to the board, and I'm from Uganda, East Africa. First of all, let me convey my thanks to ITU for enabling us to attend the IGF. They sponsored us in each and everything. Between June and September 2011 this year, ECPAT International carried out a research survey on the use of internet and communication technologies in 5 African countries, including Uganda, Kenya, Togo, Gambia, and Cameroon. This survey was conducted and led by young people in an effort of promoting children and youth participation. The research targeted children between 11 to 18 years and young people between 19 to 24 years, school teachers, and internet cafe operators. Those are some of the pictures which we took while conducting this survey. Some of the highlights and characteristics which I would like to share with you from this research are: social networks are really part of life of African children, particularly girls on Facebook. Children and young people in Africa are equally interested in creating and sharing contents. Like in other parts of the world, they share pictures, videos, and others. Mobile phones are increasingly being used in Uganda and other African countries as a cheap source of internet access. For example, in Uganda, we have a mobile phone company which gives free or very cheap Facebook access to people who have smartphones if they buy their SIM cards. Children preferred to have a child protection system online in order to enjoy the benefits of internet and communication technologies without any risk. It was also evidenced that ICT risks are not only in children but also in adults. As I was talking to a certain teacher during the research, he told me that, in quotes, "I hate visiting internet cafes. In many cases, when I open up a web page, I just land on a pornographic site and I feel embarrassed, most especially when there is someone seeing me or witnessing me." So even adults are facing some risks in internet and communication technologies. Some of the findings: schools have started receiving funds for ICT development, but with no guidelines on ITC use. A large number of teachers and parents do not know what their children do while online. There is frequent visiting of pornographic sites by adolescents and always share the experience. Internet cafe operators do not have policies of protecting children online, and many of them don't know the risks which young people can face when using the internet. Some of the challenges which we faced during this research. During the research, some schools that have not started using ICT were not supportive during the research. They were saying that for us, we don't have ICT facilities, we don't use internet, so there is no need of this project in our school. Forgetting that when these young people go back home, they go to cafes and even at times escape from schools and visit the internet cafes. Some cafe operators thought of losing customers when we told them about the making information and communication technology safe for young people. They they thought of losing customers, and many of them were not supportive. Some researchers from other fields who carried out research before ECPAT International were not child-friendly, and this brought a problem whereby some schools had to ask us different questions before allowing us to carry out our research. But our research was very successful, and we were so child-friendly. At this juncture, let me call upon Mr. Anjan Boss to give us the statistical data from this research. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I think we learned something very new from to conclude this part of the presentation, I know we are kind of pressed for time, and to present the full statistics will take many hours. What I will probably do is to give a very quick snapshot. So Jonathan, if you can quickly go through the slides, and if I want you to stop on one or two, okay, please highlight that. This just shows that out of the 1,500 plus target students we had, we are able to, on the charts that you will see, it's a representative of 652 children, and data from Cameroon is unfortunately not included because we received it quite late. Again, no surprise here. We have two graphs here, interestingly. The green one is including the data from Kenya, and the blue one without Kenya. The reason why we wanted to include this data is to show that it significantly impacts the results for all the data that we received. Kenya tends to alter or skew the data in one direction. So with Kenya, it goes up. This is again the percentage of people using cyber cafes. Move on, please. Quick. Yes, again, go back to the previous one. Advanced phones and smartphones are increasingly getting popular. Again, previous slide, please. Internet use through the mobile phones, if we include Kenya, it is almost 40 plus, whereas without Kenya, it's 20 something. So these are some of the studies. Go quickly, please. One interesting observation here is, more percentage of 17 to 18-year-old children has said yes to viewing pornography online, and of course, male represents a larger number here. Again, it's a bit of contradiction because in Kenya we were expecting to see this graph higher, but we realized that even with higher access to internet, the percentage for Kenya is low. Well, again, some of the statistics on what do they do while they're online. Can you hold on for the previous one? Sorry. Yeah. Again, who would children approach? No surprises here. They would always revert to their friends and peers, 80%. Okay, so I think you got, maybe you will show the one for the cyber cafes. No, go back. Maybe I didn't include the cyber cafes there. It showed a significant variation of the understanding of the risk across the countries. And this data will be presented, will be compiled very soon, and will be put up on our website. So if anybody is interested, please visit our website from a month from now, or maybe a month and a half. We expect to have the finalized report by then. And so with that, I move on to our next young person. So if I would kindly request Priscilla to introduce Arsen's work. Arsen is from Congo, and Priscilla had made his travel, and with the support of ITU, she has worked with him. So I would allow Priscilla to present his work.
Thank you, Anjan. Hi, everybody. My name is Priscilla Rouveira. I'm the project coordinator of the Digital Citizenship and Safety Project at UNICEF New York. And I'm going to introduce you Arsen Tungali. He will have the opportunity also to say a few words himself. But just for the record, he's 21. He's from Eastern Congo.
Thank you, Priscilla. Hello, everybody. As Priscilla said before, I'm Arsene Tungali. I'm coming from Congo. I'm 21 years old. Yeah, I'm going to share with you my own experience about what is the ICTs for youth living in a post-conflict zone. As I said, I'm involved with UNICEF since a time, and I'm working with Now African. So I'm a student from Africa. My country is called Democratic Republic of Congo, which is located in the center of Africa, surrounded by about 9 other countries such as Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, Angola, and so on. So even more precisely, I'm coming from a city called Goma. Goma is the capital city of North Kivu province, which is located at the east of my country. North Kivu is the most war-torn region of my country. So this picture is showing how Goma looks like. So now I'm going to share with you some facts about the Congo, about my country. My country, Congo, is the second largest country in Africa. It has about 71 million people, which means it's the 4th most populous nation in Africa. I would like to talk about in a few minutes about these facts. So because someone of you may already know them, but for others it will help you to understand and to get the context in which I live and what I'm going to say just a little bit. So we faced 2 main wars, and this really affects the youth in my city, especially in the eastern parts of my country. So the first war took place from 96 to 97, which was from to change a president to another one. For those who read my country story, they usually know about it. So the second one started from 98 to 2003, and from this war, a huge number of people will die. It's a bit more than 5 million people die on this war. So due to these 2 wars, my country faced a destabilization. So we had a lot of time with things were not going well. To finish this aspect, I would like to say that my country has the population which lives with less than $1 and 25 a day as an income. That means people are living under the poverty line. So now what does it mean, all this I have said in ICT's environment? So as you can see on the picture there, this is a generator. I'm gonna talk about the challenge of electricity which we are facing in our region. I said before, I'm coming from Goma. Goma, we do not have permanent electricity. That's a very big problem do not allow youth to have access to internet. That's what I'm talking now. So we have access to electricity. For instance, in my neighborhood, we have access to electricity only from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., where everyone is supposed to go to bed. So you can see it's a bit difficult to have access to internet because we should use computers, and computers requires to have power, electricity power. So what are we doing as youth? Because this is a challenge, but as I'm a youth, but I'm able to stay connected with the world and to get involved in ICTs. As you can see on the picture there, these are youth in my region using mobile phone. This is one of the solutions that we have in my city, and this helps people to get access to internet. I'm using a mobile phone, and this allows me to stay connected on Facebook and others. So if you do not use phone, for those who have a bit money for cyber cafe, you can even go to cyber cafe, and there you will have to pay every day you pay money, and this for youth it's not easy. So this is a challenge. So we have your mobile phone, and then we use cyber cafe. So as there's some application that I'm using on my mobile phone, I can use YouTube, I can use Google for my research. I can even blog. I'm blogging for some social news about my country, about my city. But we are not allowed to talk much about politics, because many journalists in my country have been imprisoned because they talk about the president. They talk about bad things about the president, while it was sometimes true. I'm using Twitter, I'm using Facebook, I'm using MSN, Skype, and others. So if I would say something about the risks that youth are facing in my region, to be honest, I would like to say, before I get involved with UNICEF and work with Priscilla, I didn't know anything about the risks that really youth are facing, or that I was supposed to face while using ICT or using internet. So I already received emails coming from countries, USA, Canada, people trying to say that they are sending me money, but before I receive the money, they usually ask me to send some money so that I may receive that money. So I usually respond to those mails, but since I get involved with UNICEF, I truly understand that this was robbers, and actually I can't even more respond to those emails. This is one of the emails I got, and I put it there. So I would like to talk about the viruses as the other problem that most of the youth face in my country. Most of them do not know about anything about antivirus programs. I'm lucky as I got a computer from an organization where I was working, but most of the youth in my country do not have a computers. I can say even in my university there is no computer. So that's a very huge problem to access to internet. So most of my friends do not know anything about viruses. So when they are using computers, they face always those problems of viruses. Even in more cyber cafes in my city, they even do not update the antivirus program which is installed in their problem. So that is another problem. I would like to point out another things about when youth are using internet, they usually meet with strange people. As my colleague there told about, you will be using your Facebook, for instance. You are adding people. They on their profile, for instance, on Facebook, they will say, "Oh, okay, I'm a young people. I'm a student at which university," but we are not sure that really what he is talking in his profile is really what he is. That is another problem that youth face on internet. So they usually meet strange people, virtual people, and that's really another problem. So as a conclusion, I would like to say this is a problem in my country, which is the penetration of network is very low. The penetration in my city is very low for internet. So while we are using mobile phone, it's help us to stay connected with the world. But for those who have access to internet in cyber cafes, they have to pay every day to stay connected in the world. So I would like to advise or to have a recommendation so that people, you who are here, may think about how you can help such a region to have access to ICTs by providing computers in some universities and access to internet, and by teaching some people. I would like to ask you to help youth in my region to get involved in the ICTs, because this will help me to stay connected and to have even to be here, because if I was not a user of ICTs, I couldn't even been here. So that's what I'm talking about. So in short, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Arsen. Very well done. Wow. Because, you know, one thing I just can't help commenting here, when do you charge your mobile phones? because it shows us that, if you are not having power at home, it's only from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., and that probably drives more young people to use mobile phone, and it has different implications. If more people are using mobile phones and accessing internet and all the applications that you mentioned, what's the appeal? We'll come back to this from the audience later on, but it opens up big questions. Thank you very much for that. And that concludes our young people's voice. We move on to another young person, and I wouldn't really, he looks very young. I was told he's 29, so he's definitely younger than most of us. He is going to present, apologize for not telling your name. I'm happy to introduce Peter O. Adele, if I pronounce it correctly, from Nigeria, and he's the representative of the programs. He's an IT analyst by profession, and he's the country director for Youth Crimewatch of Nigeria. And I'm sure we will have a different perspective from your presentation. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I want to appreciate ITU and ECPAT International. Like he said, I'm from Nigeria. And at every time that Nigerian name is mentioned, something synonymous, cybercrime. Anyway, I will let us know certain facts about Nigeria. First and foremost, yes, we have social, political, and economic problems. And this led some of our children and young people to be involved in cybercrime, in online abuse, and sort of threats. So we look at this, that we cannot continue like this as a nation, as young people, as children. Something has to be done. And we have to raise our voice to the parliament, to government, but we find out that they don't even understand what we are facing. So, and we believe that, young people, we are the greatest hope of the future. So we can do something. So an initiative called Youth Crimewatch of Nigeria was established in 2002. And then I was around 20 years old, and I left my IT job into the work. So many people don't believe that something can be done, but I believe we can do something. So Youth Crimewatch is for youth and by youth. And we have a responsibility. And I want us to understand that I'm not here to give us data or statistics, just to let us know what we have done as related to online threats in Nigeria. So first and foremost, in Nigeria, we have situation centers, whereby we have young people, we have children all around. We train them on ICT and internet. In fact, Nigerian youth and children, they don't need to be trained on ICT. They understand it perfectly. And in this, we now find out that our children, our youth, they've been failing their final examinations. So over the years now, over the past 10 years, they've been failing their examinations. So this call for more problem online, because these are the youth that we go into law enforcement agencies. These are the youth that we go online and do one thing or the other. So we have situation centers whereby we train them, we tell them what to do. But recently, there's a call from Europe that there's some online transaction, and we use young people. Law enforcement agency may not be able to listen to us, but they listen to young people in Nigeria. They so much have interest in children and young people. So we use them that they should go to Nigerian Postal Services and stop illegal transaction. And in this slide, you will see, these are the 2 mails that I received recently from Europe. So we stop the transaction by young people, and we return it back to the owner. So young people and children, they've been doing wonderful things in Nigeria. And we have publications whereby we sensitize teachers, young people, law enforcement agencies. Recently, we are changing the magazine to citizen magazines. So these are, we train them, we give them scholarship on ICT. And recently we met in Ghana. Youth Crimewatch is now in 22 countries in Africa. And I'm happy to be the coordinator of Africa by December 2011. So it is to increase self-esteem and confidence, to strengthen youth and police relationship as related to social crime, to internet abuse and threat. So these are many more we have done. We have cybersecurity clubs in school now, and we have ICT peer-friendly groups. These are what we have done in Nigeria. Because of my time, I don't have much time to keep on going. But we realized recently that due to lack of development in rural communities in Nigeria, though children, they have access to mobile phone, but they move from rural communities to urban centers. So putting more pressures on the urban center and putting much pressure on the resources in the urban center. So since they cannot find what they are looking for in the city, they tend to go to cyber cafes by 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. So it happens in all African countries too. And by 12 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. in Nigeria, the GSM providers give access to young people to browse the internet, to surf the internet free of charge, and to make calls. So late in the night, you will see young people doing one thing or the other, and they have problems. Now I have a photo on my system, whereby we have old adults from the Western world coming down to Nigeria to marry young guys. So this has become a problem. But I believe that since Youth Crimewatch is there, we've been doing so wonderfully in Nigeria, working with government, working with law enforcement agents. In fact, you cannot recognize us. We have the way of identifying ourselves. We move around the communities, what is going on. We encourage young people to come together, and we have a slogan, win a youth today. And once we pass on information, we give counseling. Since over 9 years now, I've been on this job, and every day, I ensure I leave my house 6 a.m., we go to schools, we talk to teachers, we talk to students. Now that Nigerian schools are internet connected, we ensure that their computers are safe. We are working with South African companies now to have software to be installed on all these systems. So this is my presentation, and I believe that Nigeria is safe now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for enlightening us on a different type of tricks, different types of engagement that you are involved in. I'm looking at my watch, and time just flew. 45 minutes, almost 50 minutes has gone without us being bored. And thank you very much to all of you for that. Without further ado, I open up this discussion in a different format now. You know, we are very glad to have the representative of Facebook, Mr. Richard Allen, who is the Director of Policy for the EMEA region. And it's, looking at the dynamics, we are expecting to have, he's not having a formal presentation like others, but what we agreed to do is to present him with few questions around which we can have a debate. And we can have the view of Facebook, in relation to all the things we are talking about. I will just go through some of the questions quickly. The first one is, how does the policies for Facebook change with regions? How does the user settings and parameters get dictated by national laws of data protection and privacy? What has been the response of Facebook with its global acceptance among children and young people? Do you observe any pattern of use relative to the regional variances? And the other question that I really want to add here is, how invested is Facebook in protecting the rights of children in lieu of mass popularity and acceptance of the social networks? We have seen from our previous presentations, it's a global thing now. And protecting their freedom of expression and the right to protection and striking a balance there We are looking forward to having your response there. And finally, sharing some of your projects and initiatives that involves children and how much input children has to those. So if we can construct the debate around that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks very much for setting me up that way, Anjan, as the oldest person yet on the panel, but I'm glad that Larry's following me. This panel is ordered by age, have you noticed? Sometimes it's alphabetical, this one's ordered by age. I think that's not too cheeky, Larry, is it? Just slightly, sorry. Okay. And I'll catch up. And also you're right, it's been a fascinating presentation so far, so it's my turn to make it boring right now. So I'll try not to do that, and I'll try to, as quickly as I can, go through those key issues that you've raised and really create for you or offer you some insight into how we think as a service provider about these issues, the kind of decisions that we make and the vision and the values that we have. So just to start, I was fascinated by Tamara's video at the beginning that she set out for us really clearly that when you go onto the internet, there's a whole range of different services available, and you are choosing between those. And so when you're building a service like Facebook, what we're thinking is that we would like it to be one of the safest places on the internet. So that's very much part of the vision that we have. We want to build a fairly open platform that people can share information with each other on, they can make friends and connections, but we also want that platform to be safe and a safe choice for people when they're thinking, which service do I use? So it's a competitive space, and I think safety is one of the factors that you want to compete on if you're building a service, not just because it's morally the right thing to do, but also because that's what allows you to build a community that's significant, where people want to stay on your service. In terms of, again, how that's impacted regionally, I mean, we have a fairly consistent pattern of usage. We're now up to 800 million people across the globe. Actually, younger people are a minority, so we would sort of think of people in three categories. There's under 13s, who today are not allowed on Facebook at all, and I know there's evidence that they are getting onto Facebook, often actually with parental consent, but our rules are very clear. If you're under 13, you shouldn't come on. And there's a really interesting debate about whether services like ours should try and make the service safe for under 13s or just try and keep them off, and we may get into that. There's a second category of 13 to 17-year-olds, and they are less than 20% of our user base. In most countries, they're around 15 or 16% of our user base will be in the 13 to 17-year age group, and they have special restrictions on their account. So, for example, if you are over 18, you can share stuff with the whole world on Facebook. If you're under 18, we set the maximum at friends of friends. So there's some restrictions around that. There's restrictions around the way you can appear in search and so on. And Peter was right in terms of the analysis that women, we're slightly more female than male, which actually I think is really interesting, in terms of the evolution of the web, that we're getting services now. The vision of the internet as a home for male geeks is like history now, and services are very popular across the social spread. Interestingly, as we become more mature in a country, we tend to get more older people. So that older, the really big number is kind of 18 to 34, but those 35 pluses start joining the service as the system becomes more mature. I describe it as the weddings and babies effect, where people have babies or they get married, and they're in their sort of late 20s or 30s, and they say to their 60-year-old parents, if you want to see the photos, you've got to go on Facebook. So it's kind of like an intergenerational recruitment process. In terms of then how we try and keep the service safe and how we articulate that, there are several elements I'll just refer to quickly. Policy, reporting, and investigation, and I think that covers some of the other questions you raised. In terms of policy, I think the really critical one is what we call the real identity policy, and both Arsene and Valia referred to the issue of meeting with strangers on the internet. And this is contentious in, a lot of the sessions at the IGF, people are saying we demand the right to anonymity, we demand the right to be anonymous on the internet. And what we would say is there are plenty of spaces where you can be anonymous, but Facebook isn't one of them. And we're just really clear about that, because it's so fundamental to your experience that when you deal with someone, you don't have an absolute guarantee that they are who they say they are, but you have a reasonable expectation. And for most people here, if they do use Facebook, I'm sure they find that you know, most of the people that they're interacting with are actually real friends, and they can verify them by seeing who their friends are. They have some way of putting them in context. So real identity we absolutely stick to, and as a key part of our system. The other value that we have is we have a no nudity and pornography policy. Again, absolutely strict. I was talking with somebody in the room earlier, and I won't embarrass them by saying who they were, but they said their account had been closed because they had posted nude photos. So the system is clearly working. You know, it is whack-a-mole, and people do post that kind of material, and you do have to keep closing their accounts. But our policy, again, is absolutely clear. No nudity, no pornography on Facebook. And if you post it, we will close your account. And I say that's, again, a rule that we have. Other people would say, I would like to post that material. Again, post it somewhere else, not on our service. And people have a clear expectation of what's going to happen there. And there are a number of other policies that we have in place to try and protect people. The second area is reporting. And again, we have, I was really interested in the chart that Anjan, I think you put up around where people would go if they had a problem. And our vision, again, is to try and get the right report to the right person who can help. So sometimes, if you want to report something that's just an unflattering photo of you, you don't want to send that to the police. You know, it's kind of wasting their time and yours, and it won't get fixed. If you want to report an unflattering photo, you want to report it to the person who posted the photo and say, hey, I don't like it, and maybe they'll learn also not to post any more photos of you. And so we're trying to create systems where, for that sort of baseline thing, you can send it to the person who posted it. You might have something more serious where you think it's bullying, and actually it could be the posting of a photo that's bullying you, and we've created a tool where you can report that to a third party, which could be your parent, who's now on Facebook because they wanted to see the baby photos, or it could be a teacher, it could be a third party. So that social reporting exists for more serious incidents. It could be something that you need to report to us, like a scam, where you need us to take action and shut those people down. And it could be something you need to report to law enforcement because it's at that very serious end of the spectrum. So again, our design goal in reporting is to get the right report to the right person who can help that individual. It's a really complex technical challenge. It's continually evolving, but that's what we're trying to do when we build that system. And it also needs critically partnerships because, again, you know, if somebody has posted some illegal material, we can remove the illegal material, we can close the account, but that person may need their door kicking in, frankly, and then being carted off to face the courts. And that's not something that Facebook has or should ever have the power to do. So those partnerships with agencies around the world, again, very complex to set up, but and we've been growing them over time, but we need those so that we can escalate things at the most serious end of the spectrum. So turning to that piece, and again, I was interested in some of the issue around scams that Arsene again referred to in his presentation, that where there is something which is a serious criminal offence taking place as opposed to harassment or something that is between individuals, we do now have what we call an e-crime investigations team. And so those people are, you know, when we are alerted to something that is a serious criminal offence, we will seek to work out if there is a network of people doing that, and we'll try and work out whether we can escalate that to a law enforcement agency. And that investigations work has been growing all the time. I was fascinated, Peter, that you said that when you talked about the scams from Nigeria, actually, that I was talking to my colleagues and saying when we're looking for good Facebook developer communities in Africa, Nigeria actually comes out way up the list. So those skills that people have learned, even if they've not learned them for the correct purposes, I think have equipped them actually for legitimate work for companies like ours. And I'm really pleased to see the way that you're encouraging that direction. So those are, say, the key elements: having good policies in place, having reporting systems in place that escalate reports correctly, and having an investigations capability. The last piece, which we talk about a lot, and I've deliberately left it last, is around education. The reason I've left it last is sometimes internet companies say it's all about education. It's like we have no responsibility, it's just education. Education is important, and there are some things we've done. We've built a safety centre, which again we're continually improving. And we're doing that in connection with some partners. You talked about getting consultation in there. We have a safety advisory board, which has a number of global NGOs on it and a number of experts that we bring in. So there's a constant traffic into headquarters, helping us to provide the education material that we need, recognizing that the good education material that's been provided is by ECPAT members, by other NGOs that's out there. And you don't want companies like Facebook reinventing the wheel. We should be working out how we can connect the people using our service to those resources. So there's a big education piece around that, and I say a revolving door with a lot of experts who come through and help us to advise that. Just looking forward, I think the big challenge for us now is continual improvement. When you have such a large user community, you need to continually improve. And the second piece, I think, is really this growth of partnerships. That, you know, you look at a country like the US, and naturally you have really well-established partnerships with organizations reporting, for example, someone who's suicidal, or for child abuse images or anything like that. We need to replicate those partnerships 160 times. That keeps us busy, and I think we'll do for the next year. And thank you for the opportunity to share some of that with you today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Richard. I know we had plenty of other things to discuss. Maybe later on, you may be facing some questions from young people or others. You know, one thing I would like to highlight here before I move to Larry is you mentioned that no nudity and no pornography clause. And there might be, we had heard a few incidences of child abuse images being put up. Of course, they were taken down, but the uptown and the downtime is something that needs to be considered, you know, just to flag that issue.
Just help with a quick response on that. We just implemented recently a technology called PhotoDNA, developed by Microsoft, which tries to match uploaded photos against images that are in the known database held by NECMEC. And if those images are matched, the photo doesn't get uploaded and the person's details are sent to the police. And we're very comfortable with that arrangement. We think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you very much. And our final presentation for the day is Larry Magid. And we are very pleased to welcome you, Larry, to this workshop. And as Richard said, it's a very different age dynamics here. But I'm sure your presentation will bring a different dimension. I've already seen a bit of yours and I was impressed. So I would like the other people who are sitting around the table to kind of break to move it in a different direction. I welcome you here. Larry is from ConnectSafely. He has many affiliations, but I think I would like to introduce him as the director of ConnectSafely.org. So,
ConnectSafely.org, of course, is an NGO based in California, in Silicon Valley. I'm very pleased to introduce my co-director, Ann Collier. Also, my wife, Patty Regier, is with us as well. Ann and I, as part of ConnectSafely, do serve on the Safety Advisory Board at Facebook. We also serve on a similar board at Google. We work with Yahoo. We work with many of the companies in this space, some of which are based in our own towns of Silicon Valley, and have advised many of these companies. And I am pleased to report that Facebook occasionally and very often does take our advice and the advice of other NGOs, and we're very pleased to see that.
You're looking very young, Larry.
See, I knew it. So, moving right along, Ann and Patty and I arrived over the weekend, and we decided to go to Nairobi National Park. And I took some pictures, and after I started looking through my pictures, I realized that I had learned something about child protection. So let me figure out how to do this here with the arcade. Well, first of all, we went to the the orphanage for elephants, where these elephants had been rescued from horrendous conditions: abuse, neglect, criminal activity of human beings, in some cases their mothers disappearing, and they needed to be rescued and protected. And that's the kind of work that ECPAT does. And there is an absolute role for rescuing and protecting children, as well as elephants, who have been abused, and also prosecuting those who abuse. And I'm very pleased to know that Kenyan legal authorities do prosecute poachers and others who abuse animals. But all children, regardless of where they are, need more than protection and rescuing. They need to be nurtured. And of course, we saw that at the orphanage, baby elephants being nurtured. But they also need to be able to nurture themselves and to really take care of themselves. Children also need to present, I have to laugh even though I took this picture. They need to learn to present themselves properly. So this would not be, I'm not sure if this zebra is over 13 and could be on Facebook. But assuming it could, I would not recommend this particular profile picture. They also need to pay attention to what's around them. So this ostrich, of course, does not have its head in the sand. It's looking around. And they also need to get support from peers. So, for example, social reporting. For example, being a bystander. An upstander, excuse me, not a bystander, if a friend of yours is being bullied or abused. Taking care of each other. We all need to do that, just as these baboons are apparently grooming each other. And finally, Children now need to be free. They need to soar. They need to thrive. We are in the midst of a global information revolution led by youth, and you need to look no further than Arab Spring to see many examples of how a youth-driven revolution fueled by the likes of Facebook and Twitter and BlackBerries and other tools of social networking and ICT has enabled people to achieve their highest aspirations. It has literally helped to topple governments. This is a very, very exciting time to be alive, and it's a very exciting time to be in the parts of the world where rapid change is taking place. I know it's difficult, it is sometimes painful, but the result of this social revolution that is being led by youth and fueled by the internet is really moving mankind forward. So as much as I respect and appreciate and am touched by the stories that I've heard today of the challenges of the internet, and we've heard many, we need to also consider the fact that there are tremendous opportunities and tremendous possibilities as a result of the internet. And as we protect ourselves against the risks, we need not to throw away the potential for the great possibilities that the internet brings us. Of course, there are risks in life. So I gave examples of football, bicycling, cooking. These are all things that have risks. Yet, would we want to be without football, bicycles, or cooking? I don't think any of us would want those to go away. So the question is, who can protect young people? Is it government? Many here think it should be. Is it law enforcement? Of course. Is it parents? Clearly, parents have an important role in protecting young people. But the answer to this question actually is not on this slide. The answer is young people themselves. The ultimate protector of young people is themselves. Every child needs to learn how to protect him and herself, and all children need to learn how to protect each other. And that's not just kind of rhetoric saying, oh, it's a good thing. But the reality is that if something's going to happen to a child, it's probably going to happen in the presence of other children. So we need to teach children to be citizens of the internet, just as we need to be able to teach them to be citizens of their schools, of their communities, of their nations, and of the world. And citizens take care of other citizens. Law enforcement cannot arrest their way out of the problem. Governments cannot legislate their way out of the problem. And even parents, which is the best line of defense outside of children themselves, cannot parent themselves out of the problem. We need to encourage young people to learn to protect themselves. Now, Anne and I, and mostly Anne, have come up with 4 types of internet online safety. Anne came up with the first 3 of these. And there are, of course, physical safety, which we've talked about today. The stranger danger, the freedom of physical harm, of being sexually abused. There's the psychological safety, the freedom from being harassed or being cruel to, and of course, bullying is part of that. There's the reputational and legal safety, not putting things on your profile, for example, that will get you in trouble or kicked out of school, or could embarrass you, even among your friends. And then, of course, there's the security, the identity, property, and community safety, freedom from theft, freedom from those people in America who are sending emails to Nigeria trying to get the money. Or is it the other way around? I can't remember. Either way, we need to protect ourselves, and this is part of online safety. Now, interestingly enough, I think we could have had this meeting 50, 100 years ago. And of course, none of us would have been here 100 years ago. I'm not going to tell about 50. Because most of the things that we talk about when we talk about digital citizenship are really citizenship. Most of the issues, for example, we talked about cybercrime. It's crime. When we talk about cyberbullying, it's bullying. If somebody writes something nasty about you on a bathroom wall, we don't call that toilet bullying. We call it bullying. If somebody hits you with a pencil, it's not pencil bullying, it's bullying. So we need to realize that it's mostly the same thing. But there is what we call the net effect. The fact that the network or the internet does change the equation in some very important ways that we need to know about. For one, it can be permanent. You can put something on your Facebook profile and somebody could actually copy it or cache it. Even if you delete it, it may still be there. So nothing that's digital should ever be considered temporary. There is no eraser button on the internet. It can be copied and pasted, and everybody knows that. I have made the mistake, I bet you everybody here has made the mistake of sending a document to somebody and it's accidentally wound up in the wrong hands. Of course, a lot of people can see it, so that what may have been a very limited amount of damage in the analog world, where we shared maybe a bad picture or a bad experience with 2 or 3 of our friends, perhaps can be seen by thousands or potentially millions of people, and you don't know who they are. And the final one is, I don't know if you have road rage in Kenya, But in America, I grew up in Los Angeles. You can be driving down the Hollywood freeway, and you've all seen pictures of the Hollywood freeway in movies. And you could accidentally maybe be going too slow or cut somebody off, and they're going to give you a very angry hand gesture. They might even roll down the window and yell at you with some nasty words. And if you're really unlucky, well, most of the time they don't shoot you, but that has happened. Yet, if I'm walking down Hollywood Boulevard, just a few miles from the Hollywood freeway, and I accidentally bump into a person, I'll say, excuse me. He'll say, it's okay. And what's the difference? The difference is that if I'm in my car, I'm in a 3,000-pound steel-enclosed vehicle, and he's not treating me like a person. It's as if I'm not really a human being. The same is true on the internet. We tend to think of the people on the other side of that screen as if they're not human. But guess what? They are human. So we need to be careful about disinhibition. The fact that we can't physically see them and feel them and be around them doesn't mean that we can't hurt them. And that's a very important part of what we call the net effect. Now, I'm not going to read this out, but Ann and I wrote a document which is called Online Safety 3.0, and it was written about 2.5 years ago in an attempt to redefine or reinvigorate the discussion about online safety, not only in the United States, but globally. And we've presented Online Safety 3.0, and we'll continue to present it in Europe and here in Africa and wherever people will listen to us. And it's really to make sure that the net safety argument is relevant to youth, to simply preach to them and try to talk to them about things that don't resonate with their own experience doesn't get us very far. And whether that's about bullying or whether that's about predators, it has to be relevant. They have to believe it. It has to be true. And in a minute, I'll talk about the risk of exaggerating the problem, because all that does is lower our credibility. Young people, and boy, we're doing it here, aren't we, need to be participants and stakeholders. It can't be old guys like me and Richard, just telling you what you need to be doing, or even Anjan, a little younger. It has to be young people leading internet safety, just like you are leading the internet revolution. And for that matter, the physical revolutions in our world. Of course, we need to promote good citizenship. We need to have media literacy. You have to be smart. You have to know what you're doing. And we also have to understand the value of informal learning. Not everything you learn has to happen in school. You saw, I got most of my education in a national park. Many kids do learn on Facebook. They learn on Twitter. There's value to informal learning. That's very relevant. In fact, there are colleges in the United States that are a little worried because some people are saying, maybe I don't need you. I can go online and I can learn more for less money. And that's a problem for some colleges. So we also, again, we have to be accurate and honest to kids. And of course, Richard, we have to encourage the industry to engage in best practices. And that's why ConnectSafely works with Google and Facebook and Yahoo and AT&T and other companies to try to put their feet to the fire to make sure that they're doing everything that they can. Now, adults have a tendency to lock things down. We like to put fences around swimming pools. And the reality is that they have their place, but the best way to control things is not to put a fence up, but to enhance the filter that exists between our ears. And so children, that is the way we protect our children, is to enhance the filter between their ears and to get them to do the critical thinking. We also need to put risks into perspective. Fear doesn't work. Fear backfires, it paralyzes, and it creates irrational decision making. So we need to be honest with people and not try to scare them into be safe, but educate them. Now, digital skills are very important because they build resilience. The more you know about the technology, the stronger you are, and it also improves your other skills. And this was observed by a recent study from the EU Kids Online that was just released this month. We also need to be aware that panicking about anything is dangerous. A few years ago, the American media had all of this stuff about predator panic, that children were at grave risk, but it was highly exaggerated. Television shows were making a lot of money, newspapers were being sold, politicians were getting votes, but the reality is that it wasn't nearly as bad as a lot of the people said it was. And I urge you around the world not to assume that just because bad things can happen online, that they do happen online. And so when you talk about internet predators, yeah, there are creeps out there who would try to harm children, but be accurate, be honest, and look at the data. To the extent that you have data, look at it, because we found that in America, although it's a problem, and although one child being exploited is one child too many, it was happening to a very, very small number of children. Far fewer children that were exploited even by their own parents, let alone by other adults that they knew in the real world. And if you think the internet's dangerous, look at the blue line at the bottom. During the very period when the internet has grown the largest in the United States, sexual exploitation of children has gone down by 58%. It hasn't gone up, it's gone down. I'm not saying the internet gets the credit, but don't blame the internet. Now, so Ann and I and others have done a great job getting people to stop panicking around predation. We're no longer doing that in America. So instead, we're panicking about bullying. And now we get everybody writing. One of our colleagues says that 85% of 13-year-olds have been bullied. Well, it turns out that according to the EU Kids Online, it's about 6%. And about 3% have confessed to doing bullying. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. But the point, it is not an epidemic. Our children are not monsters. Come on, guys. This is a wonderful generation. These are not monsters. You're not, and probably almost all of your friends aren't either. There are a few. We need to isolate them, but don't assume that bullying is commonplace. I know, I'll go on. Because if we assume that bullying is normal, then it must be okay. And the way in which you combat bad behavior, whether it's drinking, smoking, or bullying, is to make people realize that it's not normal. That 94% of the kids at this school don't drink to a level that affects their grades, and at least 80% of the kids in America and probably the world don't bully. And there's evidence to show that by saying this, by not exaggerating the problem, you actually help alleviate the problem by isolating the one. So we don't want to go around saying that everybody bullies or that 90% of people bully, because that actually encourages bullying. Be honest with people, and there is data. And this is an example of a school in California, in the United States, and rather than saying, oh my God, we've got a bullying problem, they're saying, no, 80% of the kids don't bully. And that works. It works really well. So, good examples. There are many, many, I won't get into details, but there are many good examples of great programs. There's a tremendous amount of good work being done. The panel is a good example of it. We don't even need to go to worldsavvy.org to find one, nor do we need to go to Global Poverty. There's a ton of good ones. Even my own son, and I'll put in a little plug for him, he put out an album, a CD. He got the album cover because he put up something online, and a 15-year-old in Australia drew him the album art. So that's an example of how incredibly powerful this global communication system has. And visit my son's website. He didn't pay me for the plug, but put it in anyway.
Okay. Larry, if you can wrap up.
Okay, well, we know about the social revolution, so that's the end.
It was really, really invigorating, I have to say. We started off with a very different perspective, but definitely relevant to the issue we are talking about. And I just wanted to thank you for highlighting two things. One is the net effect, and that the eternity of the images that goes out and the information that stays out. There are a few issues, and I have some particular questions, that kind of contradicts, or not really contradicts, but because maybe not totally in agreement with what you said around only empowerment, but we will come back to that. I know we are stepping into lunchtime here, and we started a bit late, so really I wanted to open up the floor and have questions for the panels, and maybe the panels have questions for you. So yes, please. I would take any other hands. I have Jutta, the gentleman at the back, gentleman there. So yes, if we can start with Jutta.
Yes, thank you, Anjan. Jutta Kroll from Stiftung Digitale Chancen, Digital Opportunities Foundation from Germany. I totally agree with Larry that children can learn when being on Facebook, and that's why I would like to ask Richard Allen, could you explain us a little bit more your thoughts about kind of a kids' Facebook for the younger children than 13 age? Thank you.
Before I take your question, I didn't see our gentleman here has a question. Sorry for not looking at you. Sorry. Can you?
Andrei Sherbovich, Russia. I also have a question for Larry's perfect presentation, and it was related to child online and young people online safety. I don't clearly understood your thesis about the social revolutions in this context. Everything is clear besides one fact. Is that a good example of information security and child online protection? When communicating in Facebook groups, they come to the streets and they could be killed in public demonstrations. This happened in the Arab world in the spring. Thank
Yes,
you
it
very
did.
much.
Well, I can't deny that, and all I can say is that everything has its risk, especially revolutions.
Right.
And we have to,
Okay,
I
Larry.
hope the people knew what they were doing when they got into the streets.
Okay. I will have the question from you quickly. Yeah.
My name is Naftali Maura. I'm a Kenyan journalist, and I'm interested to hear from Aaron and probably even Larry about the strength of enforcement or the effectiveness of enforcement to deter or to combat online crimes in the African context. Do you think we are getting somewhere? And Peter had some, our Ugandan youth, from your perspectives, from whom you have dealt with, is it catching up? I mean, the need to combat cybercrime.
Excuse me, sorry. The first question was addressed to Richard Allen of Facebook.
Yeah, sure.
And the second question, there is
The two of them can answer. Peter and our Ugandan youth.
Okay, so
Yeah.
either one of them, right?
Yeah.
So
Then they can answer the policies. Facebook.
I think we have enough questions because we are kind of hard pressed with time. Can we give the who would like to answer first? I will take your last questions maybe because it's addressed to the young panel. Yeah. So I'll let them answer first, and then I will give Richard to answer your other question. Peter, you would like to answer, or Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay.
I think young people in Africa has been responding to the issue of cybercrime because they believe that it will affect their future. You know, they can't catch up with their counterparts in the world. So they now are ready to move away from crime to development. So because in Africa, if you report to, that is why we are strengthening youth to police relationship. If you are reporting to law enforcement agencies, they don't know what you are talking about. So it is only the youth that knows something about ICT and the internet. So that is why we catch them young. That is why we say, oh, we can do it on our own. Despite the fact that we have partnership with the police and other law enforcement agencies. So these young people, they are really doing something. At a time in Nigeria, you know, about 10 children, they were walking on the way and they saw a policeman collecting bribe. You know what they did? They just surrounded the policeman. And before we know it, the whole world is on them. And they said, what happened? This man just collected 20 naira. And they search his pocket and they find out that he has collected 20 naira and they arrested him. So young people are really working. Like I said, we have it in 22 countries in Africa. And you can see from my guy from Uganda also that young people are on the top of the job.
Yes, Jonathan, you want to just quickly share some points?
Information is so important. In most of the areas where we have sensitized young people on the proper use of ICT, there is a change. So I think we should be supported always to carry out more sensitization awareness on making IT safe. Information is really changing these young people. So there is a positive change in areas which we have reached.
Thank you very much. And I would let Richard answer the other question he had. Sorry for interrupting here. Did Larry answer his question around the revolution, the social revolution? Do you want to add more to it?
There are probably people in this room who have more experience than I do. I have experience in the 60s in America in our upheavals around the Vietnam War, et cetera, and I was shot at, believe it or not, and I got there because of a mimeograph machine. So should we blame paper? I mean, the medium is not the problem. The medium is what gathered us to deal with the problem. And again, if you're going to be in the streets, you need to know there's a risk. And I do know that because even though I've never turned over a country, we did topple a president in the 60s and 70s. So.
Richard, do you want to say something?
So on the issue of the deterrent effect of law enforcement, I don't have any particular data for African law enforcement activity. Maybe we can find some, but I don't have any to hand. What I can say is because the medium itself is global, the deterrent effect can happen as long as the message gets out that if you do this sort of thing on Facebook, you will be caught. And we have had evidence from those people who watch the groups and the places where, in particular, those who are interested in child abuse images communicate with each other. When we enforce, you see conversations between them saying, hey, watch out, Facebook are onto you. And from our point of view, that's a success. From an absolute point of view, we recognize that's not an absolute success because people will go elsewhere. They'll look for the weakest point. But I say success for us is that people who are interested in these kind of things, at least in terms of the Facebook platform, feel that it is a dangerous and hostile environment for them. And law enforcement is part of that. In terms of the under-13s, I have to be very careful not to start a kind of conversation running saying Facebook is opening up to under-13s. We're not. Our rules are very clear today. But what I can say is that the kind of things one might think about in terms of under-13s, I think the number one thing you would think about is what is the appropriate level of parental involvement in an account. So our starting point is that for a teenager, for very good privacy reasons, a teenager's account, the 13 to 17-year-old, is entirely independent of any parental control. They can choose to friend the parent, they can choose to share things with the parent, but it's the teenager who makes that decision. Clearly for an under 13-year-old, and US legislation reflects this already and other pieces of legislation around the world, I think there is more of an expectation that the parent is involved. And so what one would have to think about is, what would that look like? Is it that they can see every post? Is it that they can change the privacy controls? Is it that they give consent for various things? And I say it's not just a Facebook issue, but I think every service that is thinking about under 13s needs to think about that. And there are some interesting models out there already of those kinds of services. And then you have to think about the impact on the rest of the user community.
Alan, would you like to reflect on this gentleman's comment on the social media, the revolution, because I think it would be appropriate, if you want.
I mean, I would just echo Larry's point that we, and again, in terms of revolutions, I mean, we're very clear, we've created tools. People create revolutions. People do good and bad things with the tools. We believe that they mostly do good things with the tools, otherwise we wouldn't be making them. I mean, again, that's a kind of core value. And what we've seen is people do good and in some cases incredibly brave things, of which a very small part was the use of tools that people like ourselves build.
Okay, thank you very much. We have the question from the gentleman at the back and Marco.
All right, I think my ordinary question has been taken care of, so I have two comments. Kenneth Msisia from Malawi. I'm the director for the Young Advocates for the Advancement of ICT-related Development. By the way, I'm a young person. I hope I look like one. One thing that I wanted to point out is the issue of new users. I think Jonathan talked about it. I think this is where our primary concern should be. When one is getting it, one is just learning to use the internet. I think there are quite a few things that also come into play. For example, research studies have shown that new users are the ones that normally do, for example, commercial transactions on the internet and so on. So with imagining a new user being met by the emails that Jonathan gave us, I think this is a very big tragedy, and I think we need to start addressing such things. Secondly, I wanted to talk to Peter. I think, first of all, I think it's very important that you are accepting that there was a problem, or there is a problem. And I think we can only shake the negativity tag if we begin to accept that the problem exists and we start taking steps to address it. It's not good for Nigeria, it's not good for Africa, and I thank you for accepting that. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Marco. I'm not young anymore, but I was young before. No, I wanted to congratulate the people on the panel, especially the younger one. I was really impressed by the presentation about the situation in the Ukraine. The EU is going to have a cybercrime event in the Ukraine very soon, and I hope that some of the stuff that was presented here can actually feed into this. And that leads me to my question to my colleagues from UNICEF and ITU, because a couple of people are complaining that the same people are meeting at the IGF again and again. I have to say I like meeting with colleagues and catching up with them, especially Randy from Microsoft and others. And one of the things I'm wondering is, I think I see this as an advantage, always new people coming in, but also a continuation. So is there any plan to continue and use the value that we've seen here and keep it in the process in other ITU activities, UNICEF activities?
That's a very good reflection, on the direction we are heading towards. And I would lead Jong-hee if she wants to answer, or Priscilla.
Thank you, Marco, for your valuable question, and which actually I want to know also. Luckily, we ITU could provide some fellowship to all youth participants, and they had very good meeting with ITU Secretary General like 2 days ago, right? And then they also got a very good opportunity to take a picture with him individually, and I think they can believe. Okay, anyway, so we are. Yeah, and then they had sort of like a promise from Secretary General to continue his support to their youth participants. The one thing is, we believe that this one is a really good initiative, and ITU happy to work with UNICEF and UNODC as well as ECPAT International, also all COP multi-stakeholder partners. We hope to continue this initiative, but we also need all your support to raise this kind of issue and to support. The one I'm really happy to have the youth participants from all different continents. That's one of the best thing, the beauty of this workshop. We know that we have some youth participants from Asia, youth participants from UK, but happy to have the youth participants, especially from Africa, Congo, Uganda, as well as South America, Costa Rica. I will work hard with UNICEF and UNODC and other UN agencies to support this youth participant. Thank you. Priscilla, you want to have more?
Yes, before I go to Anne, just a quick comment adding on to what Jong-hee said. And I mentioned this earlier before the start of the presentation. We are hoping that all the deliberations that's going on here will actually make an impact. We are not sitting together preaching to the preached, and we are trying to raise more awareness, more action, more commitment from global community. I think that was one of the purpose of having this workshop in the first place. Yes, Anne.
I just wanted to add my support to what Jong said. I think it's getting increasingly important to integrate youth views throughout the IGF. We seem to have a policy thread and a technology or technical thread, and then we have child protection and digital citizenship thread, and it's really wonderful to see more and more coordination in the work involving youth, but youth need to be heard in all of those spaces, so if there's some way that we can integrate their voice into the entire IGF, I think would be fantastic.
Very much. And do we have any question from the remote participation? Nothing yet? No comments? Okay. I think we have to wrap up. We have to give the floor to Priscilla to wrap up the session. So if you can be very quick.
All right, very quickly. Hello, I'm Jonas Mäkinen from Finland, and I do consider myself young. I'm vice chairman of Pirate Youth Organization. Quickly, first thing to Ukraine. To watch a bit about the terminology, because the internet is real. Never ever say in real life when discussing internet issues and youth. The internet is real. You can say away from keyboard. Not IRL, but AFK. Second, Larry for president. And thank you for telling about the whole mobile connectivity, how it works in Congo and so on, because that was very, very enlightening. And in general, now I'm understanding youth participation and hearing their voice, telling you everyone, again, maybe you have heard that youth have organized themselves in IGF. There's the Youth Coalition, which will also give a statement in the main session. So if there's anything you want to do locally, maybe in your own countries that could help young people get along and maybe come here, then please communicate with us. We're very glad to do some networking and help young people to get over here and share their expertise or just interest.
Yes, thanks for that comment. I think we'll see that more often in the next IGF as well. That's already happening, which is a very good news. The burning issues? Okay, Jonathan, you had something, sorry.
My question was to the Facebook. Many young people, when registering, especially children, they don't give their right age in order to access the adult services and contents. Do you have any measure of dealing with that?
So we largely rely on community reporting, which we find to be effective. People report other people who are cheating the system, and when they do that, we have some very special rules about how many times we will allow people to change their age. So if they're just correcting it to their real age, we will permit. The report comes in, we say, we can tell you're the wrong age, we can tell you've lied, you have a chance to correct it to the real age and keep your account. If you don't, we'll close it. So that's the mechanism we have in place, but it does depend on other people in the community reporting those individuals.
Okay, and probably the final question of the day, unless there is some burning issues. Yes, Arsen.
Okay, my question goes to Facebook too. I would like first to thank you for developing Facebook Zero, you know, in my country, because without Facebook Zero, I wouldn't be able to access internet as much as I do. Plus, Facebook Mobile is free of charge in my country when you are using some networks. So second, I have been having some questions, some problems understanding Facebook privacy settings, the Facebook privacy settings, and I know that many of my peers do too. So is Facebook thinking of simplifying the settings, or maybe create a video like Google, for instance, does, to explain how to protect your privacy on Facebook and make it easy to download in mobile phone? Because in my region, I can't download a video because it will take me 3 days for downloading a video. So finally, do you have any plans to make more Africa-friendly tools like Facebook Zero? For instance, it's very hard to download videos with my local language, as I said before. Yeah, thank you.
So I think the answers are pretty much yes across the piece. Our vision is that we would like everybody anywhere to be able to connect to our service. And so where we identify barriers to that, and in Africa, one of the barriers was cost, the other is bandwidth. We've tried to tackle that with Zero. So that both tries to make the service faster by making it lighter weight and has an arrangement with the mobile provider to get it to you at no cost. And it's great to hear that that's popular. In terms of privacy settings, we're constantly trying to improve them and producing more educational material. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong, and when we get it wrong, people use Facebook to organize and tell us how wrong we've got it. We've just done a set of changes which I think are good both in themselves, but also really importantly, if you went back a year or so, you had all the privacy changes on the website, or the controls, and on the mobile you had pretty much nothing. It was very basic. You look at it today, and I have the latest version, and you'll be getting it soon. You look at it today, all those privacy controls are starting to be integrated into the mobile service. So I hope that will really help for folks like yourself.
Booklet called Facebook Guide, Parent's Guide to Facebook. It is being rewritten to reflect the changes, but it is all about how to set your privacy settings. So it's at fbparents.org. That's FB as in FacebookParents.org.
Thanks very much, Larry, and thanks, Alan. We were kind of expecting Facebook to do that, you know, going to the mobile era, and thanks for that. It's a shame that we are running out of time, and it's a shame that our workshop is kind of overlapping with lunch. We don't want to keep people hungry, and this leads us to Priscilla, who is going to wrap up the session for the day.
Thank you, Engin. I just would like first to thank everybody on the panel and the organizer, ECPAT, ITU, and UNICEF, myself. So the point I would like to make is how, unique of an approach it's been today, because we have young people, but not only young people from very accessible countries, but also young people from countries that we don't hear about enough. And they are using ICTs sometimes at the same level of young people in more developed countries. So thank you for the four of you for being here. Tamara, Valentina, Arsène, and Jonathan. You did an excellent job, and I'm sure everybody can give you a round of applause to encourage you for it. Then I also would like to say that it's, I mean, the organizers did a great job in bringing Larry from ConnectSafely. Thank you so much. And also Facebook, who we don't see enough at the IGF, and we hope to see even more. Maybe one little thing that we could have added to the panel with a governmental presence would maybe have made it more complete, so maybe for next year. When it comes to the next step, the ITU COP initiative, as Yonghi explained, they provided for a fellowship for the youth participants. They made it possible for all of them to be here. And we hope to be able actually with ITU to bring even more youth for the following years, again, from regions that are less accessible, and have their voices heard. And I will also echo what Engin said about hopefully the voices will get also outside of this room. I will even go further and say even beyond the IGF. And insist on the fact that we need more valuable research like the one led by ECPAT, because only evidence can fit into policy initiatives that would be reliable on the digital landscapes and the realities on each of these countries. So hopefully we will see this in a month or so, and many more, because it's many more than 5 countries in Africa. And to finish, I would just again would like to thank you all, and maybe if the young people want to say a few words before we all run for lunch, please go ahead and do so.
Okay, first of all, as to present my thanks to ITU, to ECPAT, to UNICEF for allowing us to take part to such a great meeting and to share our perspective, our own perspective on ICTs. Thank you.
So just to formally close the session, Jonathan, sorry.
Young people in Africa would like to enjoy the same benefits of internet and communication technology as our fellows in developed countries, but when it is safe without any risks.
Okay, so any voice, anything from Tamara, please? A final comment?
Gracias a todos por la atención, y en mi país la gente, los jóvenes, este tipo de eventos, yo sé que sí les llamaría mucho la atención porque muchos ocupamos más información sobre la seguridad de Internet, así que muchísimas gracias a todos por la atención.
Thank you very much to all of you for your attention. In my country, it's the kind of events that attracts attention, and I also would like to add something that she hasn't said, but I would like to say this is such an important day to her that she insisted this morning on wearing her school uniform. So she was like with the shirt from the school, and she was very proud.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be quick. This is my first participation in IGF, and I visited several sessions with youth participants, not only us. And you know what I mentioned, usually I saw the same faces on these meetings, on these workshops. And my challenge for the next year is that actually government representatives, not only NGOs, not only women's, but government representatives who actually make decisions, they should be there. You know, they should not only allow us be here, but they should face us. Are they afraid of us or what? Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay, so I think I should close the session here, thanking again to ITU, UNICEF, and ECPAT as co-organizers for the session, and hopefully this can be extended to next year. So thank you very much to all of you for coming.